Hello, welcome to For Audacious Living. I'm Heidi Rubio, wife coach and spiritual growth mentor. I help women understand God's design for marriage, what it looks like to live that out, to have a thriving marriage, as well as helping women understand that they have the power given to them by Christ to break spiritual bondage chains and to engage in spiritual warfare. So today I want to talk to you a little about what it means to become one when you get married. Now, oftentimes people don't quite understand what this means, or they only have one aspect of the context of it. So we're going to just chat about that a little bit today and hopefully give you some more insight on what it means to become one when you get married. So Genesis 2:24 says, "And that is why man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh." So when God created Eve, he made her out of Adam's rib as a part of him. Now, a lot of people have come to view men and women as though we don't have equality or as though we weren't made equally. Our roles in life are different, but our equality is the same. God made us equal to Adam. However, he made us to do different things in this life and in this world. And so when we get married, there is a covenant that is made. Now, when we become one, there's three different steps to it. One, we leave our mother and father. It's a reference to having the ceremony and making the commitment and having that covenant put in place. Our uniting, which is the actual covenant, our vows that we say to our spouse, our vow and saying I do, and sealing with the ring and a kiss. The public commitment of permanence, and then also becoming one flesh. So our physical union, which is meant to be an exclusive intimacy. Now, we often think that that's the extent of becoming one, just that physical intimacy, that saving that for marriage or the context of it. So that's kind of something I want to talk about today and how we become one, because it's more than just our physical aspect. It's more than just our flesh. And there's more than one way to destroy the oneness that we have in our marriage. So our physical is the flesh, that version of becoming one with our spouse. But there's also a spiritual covenant, the unity between us. And this is where we, at a later point, we'll talk a little bit more about the impact of that a little bit deeper. But so our spiritual covenant is where our souls are actually intertwined. We are united spiritually. That's what our vows are doing. We are making that commitment for a deeper level than just being there physically. When we say for richer, for poor, for sickness and in health, in the good times and the bad, because there's something spiritual about that, not just being physically present, but also being committed, also being there for them emotionally and spiritually. And so our souls actually intertwine. That is why when it comes to as the wife, as our ability to sway our spouse and share our wisdom and share our opinion under his headship, we have that, because if it were any other person, they don't have that unique shared oneness, and so it won't have as much influence. That's why 1 Peter 3:1-3 talks about that as a wife, as a woman, we have the ability to sway or lead our spouse closer to Christ by our own behaviors, because we have a very unique communion with them, a very unique adjointness. But also, that oneness solidifies our protective covering and submission. We'll talk about submission at a later date, but there is a protective covering that comes within the marriage context with our spouse when we follow God's obedience and we submit to God, but also to our spouse and what that looks like. And so that solidifies that protective covering. But also, and here's the best part about the oneness that we have with our spouse, is it's why we have the ability to make a further impact on our spouse. So if you've ever watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding, really old movie, but there's a part in there where the mother is talking to the daughter and she says, he may be the king, the head, but I as the queen am the neck to move him back and forth. Now, the context of it is about, if taken at face value, it may seem as like control or as, walking all over him to make him change his mind. But what she's talking about in the movie is about her ability as a wife to go to her husband and have conversations and give different insight and wisdom so that he can make a decision that is good for all involved. That means making a decision for his children, for his wife, for his family, for his how he provides and how he protects, and having all the information and wisdom available to him. Wisdom and information available that may only be able to come from a wife, or where when it comes from her, it has a special sway or influence on him. Another way that is incredible in how we become one is when we go to God on behalf of our spouse, our prayers are going to have a much deeper impact because we're not just praying for anyone. We are praying for the other part of our soul. We are praying for the other part of our spirit because we've become one. And that's why in the New Testament, Paul talks about if a wife is with someone who is an unrighteous man, if he is willing to live with her, her righteousness will cover him. There is such a unique covering that comes when we are within our oneness. It's also why divorce is so painful, and it's not just because of the emotion of love, but because when you go to get divorced, you're essentially splitting that one spirit, that covenant, you're splitting the one into two. It's a tearing apart of something. And so when we become one, it is so much more than just a flesh. It's so much more than just that commitment to be there physically. It is essentially you're taking your two spirits and becoming one. It's a unity with Christ. And so you as one are making a commitment to Christ to love the way that he loves the church. That's what marriage is, our earthly significant example of. And so what the oneness means is not that we are taking Adam's place above us, at the man's place above, and bringing it together with our place below. We are equal, those separate roles, but we are becoming one, not just physically, but also spiritually. We are becoming one in a sense of we are navigating this life together. We're not just two different ships that are meeting up and, occasionally we come together. We are combining, not just combining households and bank accounts, but we are combining every aspect to become one, to live out this life together, to have the same mission and dreams together, to work towards goals together, to raise children together, the next generation, our disciples in Christ. And so it is a oneness where we oftentimes, too often, want to have some semblance of our independence outside of our spouse. And while I think having separate hobbies and friends can be good, we also have to look at it as we are no longer two individual people living a life together. And I'll go on that further in another video, but we are essentially becoming a one person with one goal. We are two separate people, as in, again, personalities, friendships, hobbies, but we are coming together and creating a oneness of goal, a oneness of love, a oneness of community and covenant within a home, within our church, within ourselves, where we are united in all aspects. We want to be united when we're making decisions. We want to be united when we're parenting. We want to be united when it comes to conflicts that arise and struggles that arise in our life. And so often we are of two different minds in those things in marriage, and that starts to create gaps and splinters within our relationship. So I hope that this has helped you to understand a little bit more and what God has designed for marriage and what He means when it means that we are becoming one. So I hope you have learned something from that has helped you kind of see the aspect of marriage a little differently. And until next time, have a wonderful day.